Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Well, hey sister, how you doing?
Hey sister, I'm doing well. Just want to start off by saying I'm so happy to be present with my sister again. We were together just a few weeks ago, and now we are celebrating the graduation, high school graduation of her son. So I'm so happy to be here for this very momentous occasion.
Yes. We're very excited. We're having a little bit of a celebration. So if you're out there, show some love to all the graduates out there. Yes. So class of 2021, you did it. We're very proud of you, whether you're graduating from high school or college. We know that the circumstances of this school year, at least the past 2 school years, has been very challenging for many. And we want to say Godspeed to you. Continue to keep your head to the sky and onward and upward always, regardless of where you are, your age, your station. Just keep going forward towards your dreams. And that is going to fit in right into the conversation we're going to have tonight, right?
Yes, for sure.
For sure. All right. So as always, we want you to like, follow, share, and subscribe, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Hey Sister, you can find us on all those social platforms, and also join the conversation in the comments. We have a couple people tuning in already, so thank you for watching. Hey. We want you to be active in the comments tonight, because that's where all the action happens on Hey Sister. Yes. But we'd like to bring for our hot topics, because she said she definitely want to have this be part of the hot topics conversation. Our guest tonight is Lauren Fitzpatrick Shanks. So, hey, Lauren.
Hey, sisters.
How you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing tonight?
We are doing well. We're so excited to have you. We're going to hold on your bio and background until we get to that part when we get to your story. But we're going to dive in tonight to the hot topics. In true Hey Sister fashion, we can't do a show, can't do an episode without hot topics. And we're going to start off with rest in power to one Mr. Paul Mooney, comedic legend, comedic writer. He wrote for Richard Pryor. He wrote for Dave Chappelle. So if those of you who are a fan of Chappelle's show, you used to see From the Mind of Paul Mooney. Let me tell you about a brother, in the words of Whoopi Goldberg, who didn't have any F's to give. He didn't have, he gave them all the time, like, because he will cuss you to the filth, like, down to the white meat. He will cuss you down to the white meat. But in terms, knowing that he was here to see all of when it talked about social justice and commenting on the system and commenting on racism and commenting on, this backward system that we live under, he didn't pull any punches. I don't know what you think. Did you ever see Paul Mooney?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I mean, live.
No, I haven't seen him live. I didn't get a chance to see him live, but of course, one of the things when I first heard that he transitioned, my immediate thought was, wow, he's going to leave such a huge legacy, but who's going to pick up the torch? And I think Dave Chappelle obviously is one who has already commented that he will not let Mr. Mooney's memory go, unnoticed or unknown. But I think about him, I think about Chris Rock, and then I think about a lot of these other comedians. And listen, I know that everybody's ministry isn't the same.
Amen.
But I really do believe that when you have a platform, it's a saying that I've said many times before, like, sometimes we have the whole world listening and we're not saying anything. When you have a platform, you should always make it a point to talk about things that go beyond your day to day.
Amen.
So that's what Mr. Mooney did. And he was unapologetic and
unapologetically.
Yeah.
Power to the people. How about that? Right. I don't know. Lauren, did you know of Mr. Mooney's career?
No, I think you told me earlier, like, I might be a little too young. So no, I can't comment on his career.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, I
that was
will say
before
this.
my time.
You can go look up some old Paul Mooney videos, and then especially with the work that you're doing, Paul Mooney is going to give you all the life and ammunition you need to keep going every day. How about
Yeah.
that?
Okay.
And so speaking of the social justice, so we're Louisiana natives. We heard about this story a couple years ago when it happened, the death of Ronald Green, and I think it's Monroe, Louisiana. Yeah. So now the video footage was leaked. It wasn't made public because it's 2 years old. Someone decided to leak it because that means someone who is working in that system probably couldn't live with it or live with themselves anymore. And they decided to make it public. And so there's outrage because this is before George Floyd. Mm-hmm. And we heard about it because we're from Louisiana. Yeah. So we had some knowledge of it. I don't know if you watched the video. I don't know who's watched the video out there. I stopped watching the videos. Mm-hmm. I heard some of the commentary. And it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. And actually, sometimes it's like worse. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts, sister?
Shoot. My thoughts are kind of what is it about us, I guess? What is it about when you see a Black man or a Black woman that as a police officer, you don't know how to engage. You don't know how to interact. What is it about us? Because so often we're unarmed. So often, everything has been mistaken for a gun. But when you have people who actually have guns, they're white, you seem to know how to de-escalate the situation. So it makes me wonder, just like, what is it about us? The man was married, he had a career, what could have possibly been the thing that made you see him? He was in remission after having battled cancer. What is it about us that means you just don't know how to treat us with just a modicum of dignity? I think that's what I struggle with every time I hear another one of these cases. So I don't know, Lauren.
My heart is beating so fast.
Okay.
It just makes me so angry. So I'm with Demetria. I don't watch the videos anymore if I can avoid them. I try not to watch them. But what is it about us? It's our skin color. It's our history. It's the fact that they expect us to remain composed and respectful no matter what. And if you slip with the lip, the tongue, a movement, they're just like, oh, that's disrespect. I have authority, I have power, and I'm about to take it out on you because I know I'll get away with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what it is about us. And because people are so numb, people who are not Black are so numb to it, see it so much that they're just like, oh, he, she, they must have done something. Their past, let's dredge it up and show what kind of person they were. But I'm like, we're at a point that the conversation isn't what kind of person were they or what were they doing. The conversation is, why was that cop judge, jury, and persecutor?
Hallelujah. It's very interesting because the case in North Carolina where the district attorney said, okay, yeah, he was the gentleman, Mr. Brown in that case was shot. He was shot in the back of the head, but he was in a car, and that car can be a weapon. And this man literally said, it don't matter if the car was moving frontward, backward, or standing still. Just because he was in the car was a threat. And I was like, did y'all not catch what he just said? Like, the car could not have been moving at all. And it still was a threat because just to him being in the car. And I'm just like, So what is it about us? I'm gonna tell you what it's about us. So it's not just our skin color. It's not just about the whole psychology, the miseducation of what supremacy is. I'm gonna tell you what it is about us. No matter what they do, they ain't stop us. The fact that we here, the fact that our DNA was able to cross the Atlantic and survive and thrive. And yes, it's been a struggle and it's been mountains to climb and hills to climb. And as we say, we toil, we tarry, trials and tribulation. When they turn on their TV, who their kids watching?
When they TikTok dances.
Go to them TikTok dances, where they getting it from? Now we know some of them, they get more notoriety, they blow up a little bit more, but we know where the origin is. When they listen to what their kids listening to, who they listening to?
Or even what it stemmed from, even if they are listening to somebody white, where did it stem from? Where'd that background come from?
Oh, absolutely. So we're in the language, we're in the culture, we drive the culture, we drive the way fashion, we drive the hairstyles, we drive the makeup artistry, we drive everything in this culture. And that is ultimately why the response is, to me, what it is. Oh, yeah. Because how dare you, with all that we have done to hold you down, to enslave you, suppress you, not educate you, you still become the damn president of the United States. You still become a CEO. You still on my radio is bobbing their head. But that's what I think. I don't know what y'all think out there. Y'all drop some comments down. Let us know what y'all think on this topic. All I know is I hope that his family, because Louisiana already broke, I hope his family take the state of Louisiana for every dime they can take them for, because they were Louisiana state troopers.
But then, and I hear you. I hear you.
Take it all.
I hear
Shut
you.
the state down.
But then the other side of that is there are people who we love, who we know. There are people who look like us, who live in that state, who pay their taxes, who are funding these police officers. And so now, it's never going to, the state isn't right. Anything. It's an entity, but it's going to ultimately harm and hurt people who are already in a position of just like on the lowest rung. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's the part that bugs me, because every time this happens in a state, a city, whatever, it's the taxpayers, many of whom don't agree with this stuff, that get hit the worst. And so when that funding gets stripped from that municipality or that state, then that's impacting the education system. That's impacting.
It has to be taken from somewhere.
It's got to be taken from somewhere, and who's going to be disproportionately impacted by it? So it's like, I don't know. It's maddening.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, we pay our taxes, but let me tell you right here, we in the words of Kendrick Lamar, we gonna be all right, because we already know how to do without and live without, how to make $1 out of 15 cents. What they say? A dime and a nickel. Yeah. How about that? Okay. Who said that?
I don't know. I'm sure it's a juvenile reference.
No, that's Q-Tip them. Oh man, yeah. Okay. Next. Okay. Talking about making something out of nothing out of something. If y'all haven't heard about Kwame Brown before, y'all just Google Kwame Brown, because he's been giving everybody their issue this last week. So one, Kwame Brown, former NBA player who was expected to be the next right? So he was one of the first to go from high school directly to the pros. And he did spend 13 years in the NBA. However, he never became what they thought he should be.
Athletic wise.
And so some folks decided to talk about that on their podcast. Ha ha he he snicker. Well, Mr. Steven Jackson and Mr.
Matt Barnes.
And then
Matt Barnes are better known now as Becky with the good hair.
According to Kwame Brown. And then then he did, and it has gone on for about a week. But Kwame
because other people want to chime in.
Everybody.
People like Charlemagne or Leonard, as Mooney called him, wanted to chime in and say, "Oh, don't mess with Kwame. Y'all don't need to mess with Kwame. Kwame's daddy killed his girlfriend." And like, how do you fix your mouth to say, "Don't mess with somebody"? Then say, his brother killed his girl. His daddy buried his woman alive. Other brothers, and you say all this stuff, and like, but don't mess with him because he could snap, and he could snap for lesser things. Well, child, I would think you wouldn't even want to jump in that conversation, but he did, and so DJ Envy and Charlemagne. DJ Envy just got the bullets because the shots were fired in their direction. But yeah, everybody was getting it. Jamel Hill, she said, "Well, I hope I didn't say nothing, girl. Why you said you hope you didn't say nothing?
Because you said you hope you didn't say nothing. That was all he needed to tell you and remind you of what she said about him." Bottom line, this young man, the bottom line is this young man, as in his words, he is a success in his life. You know, he's been able to do things in his life. What are you measuring as success? So, Lauren, I'm gonna toss that one to you in terms of, because I know you hadn't gotten all into this story, but when you get off of here, you go Google and you go start watching some of those videos, you're gonna be like, girl, clutching the pearls. But how are we measuring success?
That's the thing. Success is subjective. It's whatever each individual thinks is success. So some people, for him, success could have been, I made it to the league. I don't have to get a ring. I made it to the league. I got out of where I was living. I was able to provide for my family. I was able to, live on my own. I was able to buy those Jordans or whatever shoes or whatever clothes I wanted. Success can mean so many different things to different people. And that's part of, I think, an issue is that we all try to lay our own judgment or expectations upon other people and then try to say they didn't live up to those. Where it was like, did they sign up for those? Is that what they wanted? Was that their goal?
Right.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that he was able to do is start his own business. And of course, that's one of the reasons we're talking to you today, because you were able to start your own business. So perhaps for him, the success wasn't being the next Michael Jordan. It was just being the best Kwame Brown.
How about that? Absolutely. Well, we are going to dive into Miss Lauren now, because we have a couple other hot topics we're going to weave into this conversation, but we want you first to tell us a little bit about your story. So who is Lauren Fitzpatrick Shanks?
Okay, so I guess I can give a bit of my bio. Lauren Fitzpatrick Shanks is from Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised there. Went to college at the University of Kansas, so stayed in the Midwest till I was 22 years old and then moved out to Maryland. I come from a two-parent background. Mother and father are still married. Thank the Lord for that. Was very much, they were hard workers. They both got 2 degrees, so they got an undergrad, which my mother actually got both of her degrees, her bachelor's and her master's, after she had 3 children, so well into her 30s. So had a great example of hard work from both of my parents. My father always was encouraging me. He was a teacher. He got his undergrad degree in teaching, master's in HR. He was a teacher. He constantly was putting the pressure on for us to learn, to think bigger. I was good at math. He saw that in me. He was encouraging. He was like, you're going to be my engineer, my inventor, my entrepreneur. He was throwing all this stuff in the air, manifesting it. And I was trying to fight it all the way through. But I would say, you said, who is Lauren? I would say I'm very obedient. I was very obedient when it came to my parents. And if they said or thought I could do something, I would say I'm kind of a pleaser. I wanted to be able to show that I could do that. And I was encouraged by not only my father, but my high school counselor to go into engineering, even though that was never an interest. We didn't have any engineers in our family. That wasn't something I ever considered until they were saying this is what you should do because you're good at math. And so I ended up at the University of Kansas. I paid for my entire tuition for my undergrad as well as my MBA. So neither one of those were funded. I got scholarships for undergrad, but paid for that myself. And when I got there, I was majoring in aerospace engineering. I knew I wasn't a kid that could take more than 4 years. I'm like, I got these loans, I got all this, I need to get out in those 4 years. And I went into aerospace engineering because my mother had put me in an aviation youth academy as a kid. I hated it, had no interest in airplanes at all, 0. But I went to an all-Black church. There was a pilot there trying to help the pipeline for Black pilots. He created a program that was free. It was an inner city church with a lot of inner city kids. And she was like, you're going to take all these opportunities that are put before you. So she forced me into it. When it came, decided to pick a major, and I'm looking at all the engineering majors. I said, well, I know something about airplanes. Let me go into aerospace. Hated it. First semester, hated it, couldn't stand it. Got a 4.0 like GPA for that first semester. But that was when I learned just because you're good at something doesn't mean it's meant for you. Just like, you don't have to keep pursuing things because you're good at them. If you don't like them, stop them. So that was my plan, was to stop. I had a great diversity coordinator there that doubled as my like personal counselor. And I went in there and told her like, I got to change my major. I don't like this. I feel like I'm going to get pigeonholed. And she was telling me that is completely okay. Freshmen change their majors all the time. No big deal. And it's not surprising. No Black woman has ever graduated from this major, from aerospace engineering at this school. So I am competitive. I'm a people pleaser. I want to make things happen. So I took that as a challenge and I finished that degree. But throughout all of this, I was dealing with not only sexism because I was one of 2 females in my graduating class, but I'm dealing with racism because I'm the only minority in my graduating class. Everyone was white male and then a white female. So everyone was white. I was dealing with misogyny. I was dealing with stereotypes of what was expected of me, what people thought of. What do my parents do? Oh, how did you get here? It must be that your parents were in engineering. You must have been groomed for this. You couldn't have got here like on your own. Tell us your story, your backstory. How'd you end up here? There was just every kind of discrimination you could imagine I dealt with. Then coming into the corporate world, into aerospace, into a field that is male dominated, white male dominated, old men, dominated by old men. So coming in as all the things that were complete opposite of an old white man. And I had to find a way to find commonalities with people that from a surface level, you just don't have those commonalities. And with what my company is, what I've created is called KeepWOL. It stands for Keep Wondering Out Loud. But that was my specialty. That was something I was really good at. I'm really good to adapting to my audiences, to finding things that link us together. And that was something that I was able to find success in, going through corporate America, working at these 5 different companies to find those connections, to find those links, and work my way through that. But I always, at each company I stayed at, because I worked at 5 different companies, there was always something nagging at me that this isn't the place I need to be, that this is not enough, that I wasn't content with where I was at and what I was doing and needing more, and then still dealing with all the different things that come with being a minority, being a female, being in a male-dominated industry. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I want to say that we have freed ourselves of using the term minority, because there's nothing about you. So words have power, and there's a reason, why some words are used. So because that's why when you were in the room, you experienced all the things you experienced because you weren't minor.
Mm-hmm. So what word do y'all use?
We still finding the right term. We're still working on the right term.
We are.
I know some people.
But I love that.
Use underrepresented minority.
Minority, no.
Or not underrepresented.
I try to just stick with. And I know BIPOC has its challenges too.
Mm-hmm.
But like, again, Black, Indigenous, people of color, what have you. I try to lean toward that. I know there are people who have challenges with even saying Black people, because they're like, Black is a color and it doesn't say anything about who we are, our heritage or what have you. But yeah, I think I just try to get onto some folks' skin by saying, nope, I'm not minor. There's nothing minor about me, so I'm not calling myself a minority. Just like you shouldn't say white supremacy because ain't nothing supreme about you.
I like, there's this woman, Arlen Hamilton, who is in the venture capital world, and she's all about underestimated. So not underrepresented, not minority, underestimated.
I like that.
Hey, we can go with that. Underestimated, undervalued, undercounted, underappreciated. How about that?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, then thank you so much for sharing all of that. And so you said you worked with 5 companies over your career before you took the big leap. So tell us about some of those companies you worked with.
You don't have to name any names.
You don't have to name any names, but tell us about, kind of what you experienced that made you want to take the leap.
So I worked with all 5 companies were Fortune 500 companies. All 5 companies had over 60,000 employees. All 5 companies had their issues, their struggles with different things. But one company I held to a higher standard because the expectation that it seemed like they're very much about diversity, equity, inclusion. And so that was definitely something that I was shocked when I came into it. I was like shocked about the initiatives they were making and everything. That was great. That was a big deal. What made me ended up taking the leap though was, as I said, working at each of those companies, I had a nagging feeling. So I am very competitive. I'm very much, I want to climb the ladder. I always have a tendency to, when I'm working for someone else, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't want to feel like I know everything, especially if someone is above me or in a higher position. Yet I feel like, hey, I could be doing that. And that was one thing about these bigger companies is there is very much a wait your turn, buy your time. There is very much there's a seniority thing. And it's not so much about merit. It's not so much about your deliverables and your outputs. It's you being there and have been there and people liking you. And so that was something that was really hard for me, especially in the last company. So that was something that was really hard for me in the last company. But throughout my career with 5 careers, every time I was changing companies, I was always trying to grow myself. So I did start in the aerospace industry. So I worked at those big aerospace companies. And I was trying to work my way out of that. I told you I had no interest in aerospace, so I had to find my way to technology and had to find. So I ended, like, my last career was a software program manager. So I had to work my way to finding my way to tech and out of aerospace. So that was always the goal. But even once I got to tech and I felt, okay, I'm no longer pigeonholed. I have more area, more room to grow. I can spread my wings. It still was that working somewhere where they weren't trying to see you blossom. They didn't want, I feel like with these bigger companies, since there's so many people, there's no difference you can really make. And that's a big deal to me, is I want to make sure that I'm making an impact and that I feel like in the end, what I'm doing is bringing some kind of good out, not only for me, but for others. And in that instance, I was like, I'm doing little bits and pieces here, but really the outcome is, did I get a good performance review? Not how did I affect others? Right. And I think that's what kind of geared me towards, maybe you just aren't meant for this type of corporate life. Maybe you're meant to go on your own. Maybe you're meant to grow something and build something and see where that takes you, and learn in all these different aspects and all these different fields that I had already worked in and had experience with, be able to utilize and practice those. Because if you have these skills and you're not practicing them, then they're just by the wayside. If you don't use it, you lose it. So I have an MBA, and I just felt like all these different skills I had and all these experience I had, I wasn't being able to use them, and they weren't being valued. So we talked about being undervalued. They weren't being valued. And so,
yeah, but I think you talked about spreading your wings, because, you know, in order for a bird to fly, they have to catch air, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's they ride.
She's the aerospace engineer.
Oh, well, you know. Anywho, but that's the thing. If you can't, you know, if your wings, if you can't spread them, if they can't go out so far, you're not going to be able to catch air. And so
in some cases, it feels like they were clipped.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And so, you know, when I've heard it said, you know, jump and the net will appear. So when you take the leap, that's when you can catch air. So kudos on you for taking that leap and really stretching those wings and catching air. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So
2020 made a lot of people realize what they want to do, where they want to go, and take those risks, calculated risk. I wouldn't say this wasn't I'm just going to decide to go start my own company and leave corporate America type thing. This was 3 years in the making. It was planning. It was very calculated. But I think 2020 just changed people's outlook on things. Mm-hmm. And where you could be a year from now. So,
okay, right. Well, so before I ask my question, I am going to ask you to tell a story, because Lauren and I had the opportunity to work together. We never worked directly together. I would always see her and like, she is so pretty. And then I started to we had a really close friend who we both shared. Well, we had more than one, but it was one in particular that you were working with. And he just told me how smart you were. And then I would be like, God, dog, this girl, you know how you just be like, I know I don't belong here, because these folks are just like brilliant on a level that, and of course, I mean, I could be a little biased, but I tend to believe those of us who are a little more melanated have to be just even more impressive than the bear. So when I see you, I'm like, man, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, she looks so super young, and this girl is so brilliant, and why is she not like more elevated? So, but recently, before you left, you gave a speech for Black History Month, trying to help folks out, learn a little bit more about other people, while also simultaneously kind of introducing them to your business. You told story about how the professor had your classmates take a poll about who would be on teams, and tell that story.
Okay, so this was during senior year. So after after you're done, you're wrapping it up. It's second semester of your senior year. You're about to be out the door. It was a class that was like getting you ready for industry is what the class was called. It was something like that. And the whole goal, the professor was like, I want everyone to take out a sheet of paper and I want you to write down the top 3 people you would love to work with in industry and the top 3 people you would absolutely not want to work with. It was just put names. There was no reasons why, anything, just put names down. And so when the results came back, it came back with a list of how many people said you were their top choice and how many people said you were their bottom choice. And I got 0 top choices and I got 13 bottom choices, and we were a class of 14. And so literally everyone in class said they didn't want to work with me. I went back to my dorm room and I was devastated and I was crying, and something that I do when I'm crying or when I feel that way, I'm always a solution person, apparently. This is what my therapist told me. It's like, you're always trying to act on your solutions. You don't feel your emotions. You're just trying to go into solution mode. So I come back and I'm just furiously typing a letter to him and like an email to him with everything I thought about why he did that, what the outcome was, what was your goal with this, just how I was feeling. And I didn't hit send. And I'm pretty sure in one of my old hard drives, I still have it on there because I saved it, but I never hit send. It never got sent. And instead I went into his office the next day and I brought the piece of paper and I was just like, what was the point of this? Why? What was the point? And I'm like, what am I supposed to take from this? Like, what learning am I supposed to get from this that no one in my class wants to work with me? And he was like, you don't have to worry about that. And I go, well, what do you mean I don't have to worry about that? And he's like, oh, because you're Black and you're a woman. You'll have no problem finding a job. Oh. So I'm like, oh man, thank you. I didn't know I was Black and a woman, like thank you for letting me know that. But it was more so I was like, what I said to him, I was like, so I'm Black and I'm woman. So it has nothing to do with my GPA. Had a great GPA, 3.25 GPA. So nothing to do with my GPA. Has nothing to do with the fact that I'm the only person in this class that has had an internship consecutively after every year. So 3 consecutive internships with one of the top aerospace companies in the world. No, that has nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with the fact that I ended up winning this international aircraft design competition. So it was just like none of my merits mattered. He literally just saw me as this person that checked a token box and was like, you're going into industry that doesn't have people that look like you. You don't have to worry. Even if they don't want to work with you, they're going to have to. And it just kind of was just like, it just took all that wind out of my sails. So all the wind out the wings. And it was, even after it was done, I still cried. I'm pretty sure I went back to my parents and the diversity coordinator and just like, I'm about to graduate. I have a good GPA. I have a job already waiting for me. And what am I just supposed to take from this? Like every which way they're trying to knock you in your self-esteem and where you're going to be. I mean, this was over 11 years ago. It still gets me choked up, as you can see, because it's just like, it doesn't matter. You can do all those things, as we're talking about being 3 times better than everyone else. You can do all those things, yet and still it's like, oh, you only got it because you look like this, because they need to fill that void. So that was that story.
Well, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you emotional, but I mean, it was shocking to me when I heard that story because, like you, my immediate reaction was, why would somebody do that? What was the point of that? And but you're a better person than me because I might have to lay some hands on that professor.
You might have had to go Kwame Brown on.
Yeah, I had to feel it, but nevertheless, think, and this is one of the things that we talk about a lot in our Sunday school lesson about, good and bad happening and it all ultimately working for our good, and that it's a part of the greater plan. I think that even in that ignorance or stupidity, not even ignorance, plain stupidity of that professor, it gave you something, it gave you a motivation, it gave you a desire, and it gave you ability that allows you to then say, 11 years later, not only have I excelled in industry, not only have I worked with brilliant people, but now I'm launching my own business. KeepWOL, Keep Wondering Out Loud. I am now driving this business that companies are utilizing. Tell us more about Wondering Out Loud.
Yeah, so KeepWOL, Keep Wondering Out Loud. It's HR tech. So we've been talking about all these different things with surrounding working in these companies in corporate America and big corporate America. And one of the main issues is communication. Like hands down, that's something that's a problem with any kind of relationship that you're ever dealing with. It's going to be communication. And so KeepWOL is an employee engagement virtual game software and communication methodology that goes beyond your standard or typical team builders or even your mandatory trainings. So we focus on real life situations unique to individuals, stories like the story I just told you, but we've put it into something that's a competitive game that makes people forget that they're actually learning something, that they're having all this self-awareness and getting in tune with self-reflection of what's happened, but also learning from other people's stories and being able to be their authentic selves because they're playing a game and trying to win rather than, oh, I'm in this training and the goal of this training is better communication, or we're doing a team builder and the outcome is we need to have better productivity. So we've embedded in our communication methodologies a focus on the soft skills, which are really those hard skills like listening, like asking questions to seek real understanding. So curiosity, vulnerability, being able to say the hard things that you're thinking or going through without worry of how someone's going to react to hearing your story and hearing your perspectives. And then empathy and self-awareness. So we focus on that. And we currently have 10 different games that tap into things like the team building. So building that camaraderie, trust, and loyalty, as well as leadership development, relationship management, and creativity and innovation.
Nice. Fantastic. I hear a partnership coming on with Vantage Point Coach. We'll talk about that later. But I love it, and I love the name Wondering Out Loud. How did you like? I know you say your parents were educators, right? And so did they give that to you, or was that already in you? So the nature versus nurture question I'm asking, that how did you nurture?
So keep wondering out loud is kind of the nice way to say keep being nosy or keep being curious. So that I think is inherently in me. That I don't think that if I had to say, I feel like both of my parents are a little more reserved in that respect. My mom might be one who will ask more questions and go there, but if anyone, I say my sister or brothers probably are just as curious and will wonder out loud. But I don't think it was so much that they're that it was hardwired into me or someone telling me go make sure that you ask questions, gain understanding from that. I think it was just me, as I said before, having to find those commonalities in these spaces where I was so different from other people that I have to find something that makes us similar or that gives us some kind of relation to one another, so that you feel comfortable with me and I can feel comfortable working with you, and we're not just looking at the surface level of what we can see.
Well, I love that. I know when I do a DEI talk that I have or workshop that I do, I always talk about, I have my own beatitudes for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I talk about be intellectually curious, because not people are intellectually curious. So
Yes.
I love that. I love to
And
ask.
it goes into all different levels. So just what you said, like with diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's really huge. And that's part of the thing. And I was speaking to Christina about this earlier, that people aren't tapping into, they're just hearing stories and like, okay, I was there. I heard the story. That was the training. Like, give me a gold star. I was there. But it's not like you didn't get any actionable learnings from it. Where are you going to go from here? How is this going to change? And normalizing those things. But then going beyond that, because that could be a part of your DEI training, but then you have team building. But then going beyond that, you have leadership and development. That so much is wrong in that, because people don't feel comfortable asking questions, receiving feedback, giving feedback. And a lot of it is because of feedback. Instead of using the word feedback, it could be how do you think I can improve? Because typically when people use the word feedback, they're looking for something good. They're looking for you to give them good things. Mm-hmm. So that we want to tap into that with creativity and innovation as well. Like asking yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I here in this career? Why am I, here in entrepreneurship? Just thinking about things from a broader spectrum than just your everyday happenings, your routines, your habits you've fallen into.
All right. Well, we're going to circle back to hot topics. I told you we're going to weave some hot topics back in based on Lauren's experiences. So you talked about how you had to find commonalities in spaces where you were different. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about in spaces where you have perceived similarities. And that is still called into question. And so we were talking about this definition of Black or Blackness. So relaying the story to us, tell us that story about this friend. I'm using air quotes, right? About this friend. Tell us that story.
So it was a situation where I'm coming in, we're at this party or, at this outing, a barbecue. And you walk in, not even 30 minutes into the conversation, you're getting stuff together and stuff. And someone mentions playing spades and they're like, oh, Lauren doesn't know how to play spades. She's not Black. Lauren does know how to play spades, actually. Very, very well. But even if I didn't, how does that affect my level of Blackness? I'm not sure. But it was not the first time that something like this has been said by this person. And the explanation for it when the apology came, because I did eventually say something about it, was because they had played this game, Black Card Revoked, and was saying that in that game, it says things about you're not really Black if you don't do this or if you don't do that and stuff. And I'm like, at what point, because we've gone through all this evolution for so many things that you used to be able to joke about, whether it was in the LGBT community and now people are getting stigmatized and canceled because of things they said, 15 years ago, because it's no longer funny today, to now where we're in this place where we're trying to fight this fight with others, like outside of our own community. And where we need to come together, where we need everybody who has a drop of Black in them to be on our side, on our team. Like, yes, we are here for this movement, but in the community and while you're there with people who are supposed to love you, they think this is a joke and don't recognize the trauma that is associated with it, that you've probably, because they're saying it, and in this case, because of the way I speak or what I've experienced or what I've seen or done, where I lived, any of that stuff, because a part of the conversation went into what part of a city you're from or what part of a state you're from, that you're not Black. And it's not even it's like you're not Black. It's like you're not as Black as me, which I don't understand those levels, but it's you're not Black. And so we had, who's our president in the office right now, if you didn't vote for me, then you're not Black. And we all had this uproar. Like, if you're not voting for me, you're not Black. How dare you say that to somebody? Yet in our own community, we're doing this. And it was something that I was thinking, I'm like, I am in my 30s now. And this is something that I dealt with as a kid, hearing from people as a kid. And I'm like, we're professionals. Like, we're out here in corporate America doing the thing, like having to deal with these people every day, day in and day out. And this is another person who's professional in corporate America, deals with this stuff. And this comes out of your mouth. And but it goes back to them also not wanting to hear why this is so problematic and looking for an excuse instead of apology, saying, I shouldn't have done that. You're right. We need to take this joke out. It's not funny. It was, well, I said it because of this, because I played this game and I did this and I did that. And I'm like, we're still at this standstill.
At that time, I mean, golly, y'all wasn't playing that game at that time.
We never played the game together. So I'm like, we've never even played the game together. And I just sit there, I'm like, there was no learning from it. It was almost a flip of the script of, it ended up being a flip of the script of, why didn't you say something right in the moment? Or why are you being sensitive? This is how we joke. I'm like, that ain't, this is how my family jokes.
Somebody else may joke. This is not how we joke. But you should have wandered out loud right then and said, so can you discuss with me the levels of Blackness? I would like to fully understand. So, and then can you tell me first of all, who gave you the authority to determine these levels? And then have you written them down somewhere? So around
they documented it.
Right.
Yeah. And you put it in and I can go study up and then are you just appointed, or can you work to that level? I don't know. But it was,
and we inviting so many people to the cook party, the big picnic, and to the barbecue. Do they just automatically get into the Black
level?
But see, here's the other thing: the idiocy of it is that they don't even understand how they have bought into the stereotypes and the tropes and the narrative of white supremacy.
That ain't supreme.
That's not supreme. But I'm just saying that's but it ain't supreme. But it's a narrative of white supremacy, right? Yeah. But that if they have been so indoctrinated in it that they have the audacity to then think that being Black is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love
it's
playing
only one way.
Yeah, I love playing.
Right.
But let's be clear, that should not be like
what determines
factor of Blackness.
Yeah.
Like, I need us to just ratchet that up a little bit.
I mean, the determining factor of Blackness is birth, is your DNA. Like, it's not, and that is it. That is the determining factor. But I don't know, and it might, because this person said that, it's funny, it's funny because it's ironic, playing, like, it's funny because it is a stereotype and stuff. But I'm like, it's not funny. You did it to try and get a laugh at my expense. We weren't playing Black Card Revoke. We weren't even playing spades. We didn't even end up playing spades that whole night. Like, so
one could make the argument that if we were playing Black Card Revoke, which that's the name of the game, and yes, it is based on stereotypes. If we were in the moment playing that game, then perhaps if I had said, I do not play spades, then my Black card could have been revoked.
It's revoked. Right. You're playing a game. You already know what you're doing. The name of the game is Black Card Revoked.
Correct. But you, not only did the person do it at your expense, but then it was erroneous. Like you said, you do play spades. So what was the point of you saying that? Because that was not about spades, and that was not
constant. I talk proper, which it was another thing that I was like, what do you mean by proper? Because is it how I talk, the tone I talk, or well, no, you speak grammatically correct. And I'm like, my Grammarly doesn't say that. So it's really how I sound to you that you're like, she must be more educated, or she went to this school or was around these people in the environments. But I'm like, there are so many people that I know practice to sound a certain way because of where they're at, what they're doing. And I grew up with a lisp. I grew up, my dad put me in this radio talk show because I was super shy and I didn't like the sound of my voice. So I constantly was practicing how I speak, what I say, my dialect, my tone, how I enunciate. And so you don't know any of those stories when you just decide to say this joke at someone's expense, and you don't know what someone's been through and how that affects them. So yeah,
absolutely.
It was a whole thing.
All right, this last hot topic that we want to get into, and so this is also very relevant because now you are into the land of entrepreneurship, and you're a small business owner like myself, and like you too, sister. Absolutely, the Black business dilemma, and so that dilemma is, why do some hold fellow Black business owners to a different and even higher standard, or they may not even be a fellow business owner, and when you're patronizing a business, you hold Black business owner to a standard that you don't hold a mega corporation or a government entity, because USPS has been messing all our orders up. But then you call the Black company who you've ordered something from with your venom and your fur, but you ain't call the Joyce dude in the U.S. Postal Service, because that's who actually messed your order up, not that Black business. You kind of got to get to the root. Amazon has jacked some stuff up too, but y'all still be on that Prime. I'm just
I'll be on that Prime, and I'm
y'all on that Prime, okay? I was on Prime today.
Stay on Prime.
Wish listing people, okay? So I want to toss that to you because it's something we said we want to talk about. It's a hot topic. This dilemma.
Yeah, so I think a good point of what you were saying when you were leading into it was, it's a difference between people who are entrepreneurs and have seen how this works and how difficult it is, and the intricacies, and people who don't, who've never attempted it. So this is hard. And the big thing, what brought this topic up for me was, I think it was last weekend or a weekend before, somebody posted on social media and they did a review about their experience for that day. They were like, oh, this Sunday was great, had a great brunch, but it started off a little rocky. And they said, we tried to go to this one brunch spot, Black-owned. We tried to go to this Black-owned brunch spot, and they got our reservation mixed up, and then had the audacity to catch an attitude when we were trying to get them to have it fixed. So that was what was said there. Didn't go into details of how they caught the attitude, anything like that. It was very much that. So then number 2, and it listed it 1, 2, 3. Number 2, went to another Black-owned restaurant. 65% of their menu was sold out. So we had to leave there. Number 3, went to a white-owned restaurant and had no trouble getting seated and served our food. And then it ended with Black businesses need to do better. Like, I'm still going to try to support, but y'all need to do better. Like, we can't be out here looking like this. And I was watching Netflix, I think, and I happened to pick up my phone, was scrolling Facebook and saw this, and had to pause my whole show and had all the feelings and getting so upset because I'm like, what kind of review is this? And how did it help anyone? How did that help the Black community? Number 1, you didn't name any of the businesses. So none of these businesses are even learning that this is what your thoughts were. Number two, you decided to label them as black, white, and black bad, white good, black need to do better. And I'm like, how is that helping? And then to go on from that, it was, I will try to support. I'll try to keep supporting. You didn't support.
Right.
You didn't even think like, hey, let me look at this as a glass half full. With that first place, oh, they double booked our reservation. Maybe they've had a lot of cancellations at the last minute and they like to have backups so that they stay at occupancy. And maybe this is a good thing. Let's see, maybe like, let's have a conversation with them about this is the customer experience I was expecting. I didn't get that. Can we get the reservation for next weekend? And can we get a coupon code or something for it because of our inconvenience? Something like that, where you're giving like constructive feedback and you're trying to support, help them out. Mm-hmm. On the second one, it was 65% of the menu sold out. Well, it must be good, right? So try the other 35% that's left there and support. I don't know. That's my thought. Support.
That's what I was thinking.
And then on the third one, it was just like, but white's good, white's great. And so someone actually did comment on it because I was telling my husband, he was like, don't comment it, don't like, because it gives more air to the conversation, more people will see it. And so, but I was looking through the comments and then someone did comment and was like, would you do this to white people, like white businesses? Why'd you put this on social media? Why didn't you put it on Yelp so they can like understand it and be under the business? Like, what was the purpose of this? And the response was, oh, I'm trying to help my fellow Black people. So they gonna get this Facebook review and the Yelp review. And I'm like, they didn't get the review. You didn't tag anybody. Right. And you just you're making it look like Black business is bad. These were two businesses with two different situations that happened that could have been positive things if you looked at it from another side. But also not even to think about that, because you, sir, have never been a business owner. You don't understand how difficult it is with regards to resources. These were restaurants. People just opening up from COVID-19. You don't know who got PPPs. You don't know how long they were shut down. You don't know how much of their staff they had to let go or couldn't get back. You do not know like that they might not order an abundance of food, because if you order too much food and you keep it too long, you have to throw it away. So now that's supply wasted. You don't know any of these things, and you don't understand that Black businesses aren't funded like white businesses. So that white restaurant you ended up at that had such great service, you don't know who's backing the check for that. You have no idea. Yet what you came on here to do was not give constructive criticism, was not to uplift. It was literally to say Black businesses need to do better and these white businesses are doing great. That's what you tried to say. Or not tried to say, that's what was said. Black bad, white good. Black businesses do better. And
you furthered a stereotype and you gave more credence to it.
Yes.
And more backwards as you
support. Yeah.
But again, had he never been to no other white restaurant that didn't have had he not ever double booked something on his own calendar?
Yeah.
Computer system. I mean,
because I'd have been to some chain restaurants that should have it mastered and they still mess up.
Yep. I get my orders are wrong all the time, everything, but I don't yell at the people at the non-Black businesses, and I don't yell at the people at the Black business, especially the people at the Black businesses, because I know the struggle that they are going through. And I know I'm looking for, okay, but my thought is, at that first restaurant, I would have waited the hour until the other party was done. If I'm calling myself supporting, I would have waited. Even though, okay, you went to a second Black restaurant, I would have ate the 35% of the menu that's there. So don't come out here saying you trying to, because you shouldn't have to support us. Like, what is that? What is like support? No.
Do business with us.
Do business with us. do business with us, but understand that our circumstances and the things that we have to go through are not the same as others.
Especially
so do not put us at these higher standards instead of give us a level playing field. But just do that.
And at least start with looking at how much money you spend at other businesses that are not Black owned, and or how much time you spend with other businesses that are not Black owned. And then just decide, I'm going to give a percentage to Black businesses or to women owned businesses or veteran owned businesses. Like there are
Don't make it sound like a chore. Like,
right.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and we talked about mega corporations, you know, I hate Walmart. I know I shouldn't say that because one day they may sponsor Hey Sister and write us a multi-million-dollar check. However, I have such an issue with their customer service on a macro level, but I don't blame the cashier who's there. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I know that sister or that brother or that young man or young woman is in a situation that is far like different from mine. You know, I have the luxury to go into Walmart and buy the stuff. And many of these folks who are working there don't even have the luxury to buy the stuff and sustain and have a livable wage. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to get mad at this particular cashier. I'm mad at the corporation and the greed and the overall issues. But again, if you continue to support huge businesses that get it wrong and have all the resources, then you absolutely should support businesses that every now and again may have a challenge, but also are resourced, are differently resourced.
Yep. The challenges with them shouldn't be blown out of proportion.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Under-resourced, undercapitalized, underfinanced, all of that.
Underfunded, everything. Yes.
We have already, our hour has expired already. Can you believe it? Like it went by fast.
It did.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back.
Yeah, we definitely have to have you back. But what would you like to leave our audience with? So we have your website here so they can go find out more about KeepWOL, Keep Wondering Out Loud. Definitely they can leverage your services for their corporations. The idea of the game. But what would you like to leave the audience with?
So you can go to keepwol.com, and at the bottom of the webpage, it has links to all our social media, so you can follow us on all our social media. But what I want to leave everybody with is, before you jump to conclusions, make assumptions, just start saying things out your mouth. Think of it. Is it a fact? Is it something you've experienced? Or is it something you're trying to impose upon someone else? And ask yourself that before you say what you're going to say, because in a lot of ways, how you can get around that is first asking a question. Ask questions for understanding before you start making your assumptions and jump to your conclusions.
All right. I love that. Sister, what about you? What you want to say in closing tonight?
So first of all, I want to thank you, Miss Lauren, for being a part of this show. I really appreciate it. You know, when I reached out and asked you about it, you were immediately like, yes, I've checked it out. And yes, it's great. I would love to do it. And so I thank you so much for that. You have just a wonderful story. And like I said, you know, having worked together, I am so proud of you for taking the leap. You know, I got to someone who has truly blossomed, and you're doing all of this as a wife and a mother of 2 young children. And so I just want everybody who's out there listening, watching, who are watching the replay, to stay encouraged. If there is something that God places on your heart, you know, I always like the saying, if you do the ordinary, God will do the extraordinary. And so if God places something on your heart, then be sure to go after it, and go after it vigilantly. And sometimes that means staying on that corporate job for a little longer than you wanted to. Have mercy. But he is going to deliver you, because your gifts will make room for you. And I know that your gifts are making room for you. So thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate it. very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both so much.
Well, I would like to say this has been a wonderful conversation. Folks, go out there, keep wondering out loud, be intellectually curious, and tune in next week to Hey Sister. So with that, we're signing off for tonight. Lauren, you hold the line, and we're going to wave to everybody as we end our show. Bye.